Hi, this is Yatin, your host for today's session. What if choosing your next workspace isn't about square footage? It's about data. There'll be some new questions in your mind. How will this workspace help us grow, attract new talent, and stay future ready? In the age of AI, workspaces aren't chosen, they are designed, they are personalized and predictive. If we were to look at this decision, once it was a straightforward decision wherein cost and location played a very crucial role. But today, with the new age, we are looking at technology, culture, flexibility, experiences shaping this decision. In today's discussion, we have with us Ms. Megha Agarwal, Chief Marketing Officer, Tablespace, one who brings rich experience across FMCG, digital first brands, and real estate. Somebody who's led marketing functions for brands like Rin, Pureit, and is currently shaping Tablespace. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Yatin.
Megha, for the understanding of our audience, right? What is the difference between a managed working space or a co-working? People often get confused about it. I thought I should probably start with this question itself.
It's a fantastic way to start the conversation, really, because the larger flex workspace category is still very nascent in the country. It's about 10, 12 years old as a category. And it came in first as co-working. So what people most understand about this category is co-working because it's designed for startups. It gives flexibility, speed. You can use a space for a day, a month, hot desking. The formats were plenty designed for startups in mind, right? Traditional commercial real estate is long-term, rigid, and sometimes very difficult to navigate. Long cost structures, long tenures, and so on and so forth. Co-working broke that norm and brought the other extreme of the spectrum in terms of speed, flexibility, lower cost, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Over time, this has really evolved. I think COVID was a huge lesson for the category itself. Some thought that this whole category will go away, given things are not certain, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know how things shape up given future? What's really happened is when Tablespace came up in this category, and I think Tablespace is now but 7, 8 years old as a brand, we realized that, and the starting principle really was that commercial real estate is bulky. Enterprises also need flexibility. Why should the whole idea of flexibility be only for startups, right? And COVID only re-emphasized that. So as a brand, we are an enterprise-first managed workspace solution provider.
Okay.
We provide flexibility to enterprise companies first. So we operate somewhere in between really then, right? So there is commercial real estate, one extreme, the oldest category, so to say, in the country. There's co-working, the other extreme, designed for startups, extremely short-term, fast, nimble, enterprise managed workspaces. We operate in the center. We take care of the entire workspace lifecycle from lease, design, build, and operate. We ensure that enterprises come, work. We do your workspace. We'll find your workspace, we'll design it, we'll build it for you, and we'll even operate it for you so that you can focus on what you do best. Workspace should not be a pain point or a concern. And given flexibility comes in, it's not long-term leases. And COVID also taught this to enterprises, right?
Yes.
Saying the future is not certain, hybrid is becoming real, and therefore a flexible solution works fantastically for enterprises. So I think the founders, when they started this whole idea, were really visionary to change the dynamics of how the commercial real estate has been operating. And today, managed office is the fastest growing segment within the flex workspace category.
See, this entirely changed how storytelling used to be done, especially when it comes to workspace brands, right? If you talk about Tablespace, is AI really helping you tell the story in a right manner? Of course, cost is not the differentiator anymore, or I would say the only differentiator or a primary decision-making point. How does AI help you here when it comes to storytelling?
So it's fantastic, right? I think AI is right now in every marketer's playbook. If you're not discussing, not experimenting with AI, you are not a marketer of today. It's the same thing that happened when digital suddenly became big. And I come from Unilever, right? I remember the days when a large part of the media planning was predominantly television, a little bit of print, a little bit of OOH. And that's the media plan really. From there, suddenly digital hit us saying, what are the brands that are now investing in digital? Where is your digital first creative? And from 1%, 5%, 10% to a large budget moving to digital was the first evolution. AI, in my mind right now, is at a stage where we are still figuring out what is the best way to integrate it into marketing. And to me right now, it is more an enabler, which does bring in a lot of efficiency into how we do marketing. Let me give you a step back from a commercial real estate point of view. The commercial real estate narrative has been very vanilla, right? It's about office space, rent, location, like you yourself said. It was a very simple matrix of filters that an occupier would look at, choose a space, lock a space, move in, and start doing what they are really using the office for. Today, it's not about square footage or rent. It is about building an ecosystem, building a culture where productivity thrives, collaboration happens, and employees are happy delivering your vision as a brand, right? So a workspace is a very integral part of the business ecosystem. Here is where AI comes in for a brand like us, which is Table Space. So when we make pitches to clients, so if you're an occupier brand X, let's take FT. FT is looking out for an office. As a brand, we would know what FT is. We would do a lot of research around you, understand what the CHRO wants, what the CTO wants, what the founder wants. And when we design the pitch, we use AI right now from a lot of analytics point of view. So a lot of market intelligence gathering is sitting on our platforms right now. So we know which markets are doing really well. We know micro markets where, for example, AI companies prefer a certain micro market because either the right ecosystem is at play there, or the talent is in that micro market, or there are surrounding companies which work for the AI ecosystem, for instance. So we put a lot of this information together. We look at global digital practices on design, what works for a certain category of a workspace. All of that information comes together and we come to you with a pitch, right? So that pitch is a very intelligent conversation. That's a marketing asset really, where the sales team is fully enabled to have the right conversation the first time with you to ensure that you know that we're the right partner to pick the workspace with you. So today we're using a lot of that information to come with a solid sales pitch, get you in. Once you're in, then the journey is very different from an AI point of view, right? After you've and I'll take you through the process and you can cut and move through this because I'm, I think, talking a lot about this. I'll cut it later. Once the pitch really happens, a very integral part of you signing up for a space is experiencing the space, right? AR and VR tech is really large in this space. So when you come, imagine when you can experience a space as, let's say you're the CTO. Where is my hub room? Where is my server room? Is everything intact? Are you compliant? You're able to visualize a space and understand how the space is coming to life. When the CHRO experiences space, she will see where the collab zones are. Where will the cafeteria be? Is there a library if I need to be? Have I made provisions for a creche? I'm able to experience all of that. So all your requirements are built in smartly into a platform which is able to help you visualize the space through 3D models. And that is the power of AI right now. It helps us do this at speed, at scale. So it's not like we didn't have all of this. Tech has been powering this. AI gives us speed and scale to all of this right now. So this is one example.
You come from a background wherein you work with both B2C and B2B segments, right? If you look at Cavencare or if you look at Unilever, both were FMCG companies where decision making is very short, right? But when it comes to real estate, you're not pitching into a single person. You're actually, pitching it to a group. Decision making isn't linear, right? How does AI help you in setting the narrative when it comes to pitches or probably storytelling? What Table Space could perhaps offer a large enterprise when it comes to workspace?
So B2C life cycles are short, like you said. I think if I go back to my FMCG days and if I had to use AI right now, and if you see brands in this space like a Netflix or a Zomato, AI is delivering speed at scale. For a company like us, which is more B2B, one part is the longer life cycle, the longer sales cycle. And the other part is multiple POCs or multiple stakeholders who have to be convinced and are key to decision-making process given an office. The tenure, the sales life cycle could be as high as 9 months to 18 months. And that's the tenure that we look at. That's the time it takes for large enterprises to close a space. From my previous conversation, I think what is important is how we are able to deliver a unique narrative to each stakeholder by understanding the requirements really well. We have an in-house tech platform where we are able to do everything from understanding what are the upcoming micro markets. We have listening tools which help us understand that, say, X company is expanding, Y companies got funded, Maybe Z company is looking for expanding into a hybrid model, hub and spoke model.
Mhm.
We have all of these indicators already. So what we do is we create templatized conversations and storytelling in some sense, saying to a company who's expanding multi-city, what is the right narrative? To
Okay.
a company who is looking at a collab first model, what is the narrative? We are a enterprise managed brand. We provide custom built solutions. I don't have a vanilla solution for you, right? I have a solution designed for you. So to that extent, what I'm offering to you as a product is designed solely for you. So marketing here is very interesting, right? Every time my storytelling is different, customized for your requirement. For that, I have to understand your requirement really well. So that's the code of B2B marketing, really, where it is one-to-one selling and not one-to-many. And we work very closely with our sales teams, and we use analytics and data integrated through AI to deliver storytelling that's impactful and fully personalized.
See, real estate business have been people first. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's one-to-one, not one-to-many, right? Do you think AI is helping you, strengthen that narrative or building relationships instead of just replacing them?
It's a phenomenal question. And I'll tell you what. So, one part is building office spaces. Once you come in to my workspace as a client, operations is also something that we handle for you, right? Your day to day experience, your day to day working environment is managed by us. I think a place where AI is helping us significantly is with all the data that we collect. For example, the number of service requests that you raise, how much coffee do you consume? We have heat map locations to understand which location in your office is getting better utilized, not so well utilized. Where are conversations happening? Where are groups collecting? We also have data on key milestones of your company.
Okay.
All of this data sits on a central platform called the Client Experience Platform. Using AI, we are able to create templates of comms that go out consistently to you, either as reports, birthday messages, curated events for you to ensure that from the office delivery that was done, customized for you, your day-to-day experience is customized for you. And within that, also, there is a very interesting segregation. The CFO will get reports on how I can optimize space better because I have space planning happening.
This
I
was
can give you...
my next question. I think I wanted to understand how would you share this data?
Yeah.
I mean, we share periodic report or the data is sitting on a interactive dashboard that me being a CFO or maybe, the branch head could perhaps look at every day.
So we have the TS app, right? The
Okay.
Tablespace app is the first point of contact where you're able to ensure your day-to-day operations is sitting very clearly. Something as basic as service request, you can track on real-time basis. Multiple dashboards are available for you to access across the client platform that you have access to. And as you require more, we can build more. Everything is customized in a system like ours, right? But from an operations point of view, the day-to-day pieces which impact your running expenditure are always available to you. How much electricity is being consumed? Can you optimize air conditioning and HVACs? All of that is available at your fingertips, and we work as partners to optimize it for you. Is your coffee consumption suddenly going up? Let's have a conversation. What's really happening? Is there wastage happening somewhere? So I think these are very useful conversations, and we have our experience managers on ground, operation managers at every center, and they become your extended teams. You are collaborating with them one-to-one. And as marketing, our decks, our conversations, our narratives, our storytelling, everything is templatized so that they are fully equipped for the next conversation. So we know that 10th of every month, I have a conversation with my client as the ops lead. They work very closely with marketing to understand what's been the journey so far, what's the data looking like, therefore, what's the right story to sort of take to the client so that he's impressed. Because for us, what is also important is retention, right? The more we work closely with you, the more we understand your business, the more we add value, you would want to continue with us. And that's a huge win. So one is getting you on board. Two is ensuring you grow with us.
See, I'm a data guy, right? I love looking at different data pointers, attributes. I think it's one of those commodities, which you can't miss.
Correct.
It's like fuel for Arabs, right? You've talked about a lot of predictive analytics, AI, data. We all understand sales cycles in real estate have been longer.
Correct.
If you compare it today, maybe 5 years, back in time, the situation on the sales cycle was same. But how AI or predictive analytics or perhaps data is helping you sell more or at least convey your messaging in an effective manner? Do you want to say anything on that?
So from a sell more point of view, right? In this market, how do you get leads in this market? Real estate is still heavily dependent on broker channel. We call them IPCs. Large, especially for enterprise clients, right? For enterprises, they will not go search for a brand, drop a lead, and then interact with the brand directly for space. They work through a very systematic process of brokers. They put in RFPs in the market, and therefore various companies pitch, and then the deal closes. So for us, what is important is how actively are we participating in these RFPs to ensure, and the first part of that really is that the larger broker network, which is the enabler network in this space, is aware of our products, our proposition, and is pitching us in the right conversations. So to my earlier conversation on how we are having listening tools in place to understand what's happening in the market, which brands are expanding, downsizing, hiring more employees, expanding into new products and geographies. We are constantly having eyes into this space, and there's a lot of information that keeps coming in. We also track SEO and keywords to understand a certain micro market suddenly is being searched a lot more, a certain company is being searched a lot more. We put all of this together to find out, like, say, these are the P1 clients, maybe these are the 100 clients that we want to sort of look at because there's action happening in this space. The other thing that we do is work very closely with our IPC networks.
Okay.
And there is a very seamless process to ensure that we're connecting with them regularly, pitching our products regularly, our comms are going out regularly, our inventory is going out regularly. We are always top of mind, right? So marketing here is extremely layered. You're doing an overall brand level comms to ensure that tomorrow, as FTA, when a broker comes and says, listen to Tablespace, I'm like, what is Tablespace? That should not come to your mind. You should already know Tablespace. Like, great, I'm glad you got them on board, right? That is one part, larger brand awareness. Second part is ensuring that the IPCs and the channel which takes you across as a brand is fully aware of you, trusts you to deliver the proposition, because the broker will look bad if the deal doesn't go through, right? So you have to be a trusted partner. So you're constantly engaging in that space. And then third, of course, is eventually when you are in the room, how you deliver a solid story which converts. Across all of these pieces, unless you have strong data, your storytelling will be broken. Because the client on the other side is not a young B2C consumer picking up something that he will pick up the next day as well. It's not soap or toothpaste, it's office. You will have to have strong metrics in place. And that's when your story sells.
Okay. So just to summarize what you said, brand, trust, and consistency, these are three core pillars based on which a real estate deal would happen, right?
Absolutely.
If you look at Tablespace, right, you are an enterprise first brand narrative company, right? Is AI really helping you build brand? Or at the same time, I'll not say or, is AI really helping you build a brand while keeping it very authentic? We just don't want to sound like, bookish or something which is going with the free flow, right?
Yeah, I'm not so sure how most marketers will think of this answer, because I think marketing builds brands, right? AI is an enabler to it. Tomorrow it could be something else, right? It is a tool that we use. It is not building my brand. Let's be very, very clear. It's the team across marketing, sales, everybody who build them. It's the people who build the brand and the story. Everything else is a tool which helps me do this brand building more effectively, more efficiently at scale. So are we using AI? 100%. Are we using tech? Definitely. We're a tech first company. So if there's anything in the market which helps me do my job better at scale, as a marketer of today who wants work done at speed, scale, extremely efficiently, 100% using it. But it is not what is building my brand. I'm very, very clear about it. It is the people and the team which builds brands that sustain over the long term.
Perfect. So you've covered the sales part, the brand building part, right? I think one of the most important metric for any business would be retaining the existing clients, right? When it comes to retentions, in your industry, it will be renewals of the contracts, right? Have you been able to ascertain usage of AI anywhere when it comes to re-engaging the clients or maybe getting renewals at a faster speed?
So here it is more data-led. And I think data plus tech plus AI is how we are using to ensure that the renewal process is happening. So we have, like I mentioned, we have a client platform and a sales platform. These are two platforms that give us a good sense of what's happening there's acquisition, there's retention, right? So across these two platforms, we have the entire life cycle of the client, the onboarding, the operations and the continuity, retention. So I think it's more data tech right now, where we have a very clear process of when we know that, N minus N assuming is a date when the client's lease is expiring. So N minus 6 months, the first alert triggers saying your client is up for renewal or expiry of lease. That's when a chain of events happen, right? From understanding the requirements, going back to them and understanding, are you going to renew? Are you growing? What's really happening? We anyway have the entire data of the constant we have monthly connects, right? So the monthly connect data is already sitting on the platform. So as your conversations for lease expiry, lease renewal come up, you already have an arsenal of information to ensure that the client continues and grows with us, unless you can't help that the client goes for whatever reason. There could be unfortunate reasons that the client is downsizing, shutting shop, or relocating to a location where today we might not have a solution, for instance, right? Apart from that, there is no reason why the client should leave me. And for that, I think between data, tech, and now with AI to ensure that every report is personalized at scale, the nudges come in at scale, we are able to ensure that the narrative is very, very solid. So that's how we're using AI right now. The other place where AI becomes really important is, and I think we're experimenting with this right now, we are working with a robot. So it's going to be the first ever in the industry, really, in the flex workspace category. We've fondly called him Robbie right now. So it's a service robot. He will be table spaces Robbie.
Okay.
The idea is personalization at scale, right? So, and this is where, when I said humans build brands, here is where we're trying to experiment tech and AI in some sense. So Robbie will be stationed at every center. And what Robbie really does is helps with wayfinding. He's completely configured to the center. He understands the location. So today you're a guest, you walk into my center, you're like, I need to find the cafeteria.
Okay.
Robbie will walk you to the cafeteria, right? Robbie carries coffee, Robbie carries documents. And as you need, for example, you're in a meeting, you don't want to be disturbed, Robbie quietly comes to you, delivers your document, quietly goes out, right?
Sure.
So that's how, as a tech-first company, we're experimenting how we can deliver experiences at scale. So imagine sitting in a company which offers experiences like this. You would not want to leave and go to a office, right? Just any other office.
Smart.
You want to be at a table space, workstation, workspace. You want to be in a space which does so much more than office, and you can focus on what you do. But your employees are delighted with all of this. You don't have to think about this. We'll take care of it. That's the power of AI really and tech. I think when these two marry together, a lot is possible to ensure that experiences, lasting experiences can be created at scale.
What a lovely, thought behind this. I think if I'm looking at a new office space for FTA, right, having one walkie-talkie brochure in the office would definitely be a deciding factor, right? Now, early in the conversation, you mentioned culture, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we talked about Robbie, so experience part is already covered.
Yes.
Coming to culture, how does AI, would help you, foster culture or feeling of camaraderie within the workspace? I know it's not your prime focus, or I won't say focus, it's not your prime job to deliver a better culture in an organization, but do workspaces, like managed workspaces like yours, really help businesses or brands build that culture within the office space?
Okay. So enterprise managed office, from a product point of view itself, to your question, right? A large part of our job is to ensure that we support you in building your culture. It comes in the operate part of the cycle, the lease, design, build, operate. Operate is where we work very closely with you to understand what's your culture like and how we can ensure that we're able to deliver experiences that match your culture at scale. And that's where, again, data and AI do their magic. We have your details as a client on our system and our platform. We work very closely with your ops team, your admin teams, and your HR teams to understand what kind of an organization are you? What's your DNA? For some companies, and let's break it down, right, for simplicity. For some companies, each festival celebration in office becomes a huge thing. For some companies, they only do international festivals. For some companies, Women's Day is a huge thing, and that could be the biggest thing that they want to do. We understand these dynamics and play, and then we work out a calendar. We call it the client experience calendar. And that is curated by center for every client, because for us, unlike co-working, we have a floor dedicated to a client in most cases, right? So we have large clients, large floor plates, and therefore we can do customized pieces for you. And that's, again, a huge difference from co-working and enterprise managed, because there you could have 15 different companies on one floor, each having a different DNA, but I will have one calendar running. You like it, you don't like it, I'm doing the best I can.
This is how you're able to get that personalization
Yes,
done.
but because I'm an enterprise managed brand, I'm talking to you, delivering something for you, and that way all the events are helping build your culture, right? And nowhere am I saying that as Tablespace we should do this. Tablespace is working in the background like magic. Everything is FTA, Company X, Company Y.
Okay.
We are just your extended support team. We work like magic behind the screens, right? Helping you build culture, helping you build productivity, helping ensure collaboration so that your teams deliver your vision at scale.
Okay. One of the traits for AI is hyper-personalization,
Yeah.
right? How do you see that helping you, since you only deal with, or I would say majorly deal with enterprises where decision-making is often global, right? Because they've got different stakeholders based out of different locations. How does hyper-personalization through AI help you there?
This is a very interesting question, right? Because from a global enterprise perspective, the big challenge for us really is how are we talking and engaging with multiple C-suite leaders of the same company across multiple countries to understand what works best for in India. I'm going to restructure this answer a little. So in most cases, a company might have multiple locations. And let's take that example for this particular question. They might want to do some things dynamically different for a country like India, right? To ensure that they're able to appeal to the audience in India. That's where we're able to do personalization at scale, because what we then do is we look at data across countries, how they operate. We talk to leaders across board in their company and ensure that we are also able to give suggestive answers. So here's where recommendation comes in. While you might understand how a company and your company operate, we are doing this for 10 million square feet, right? 300 plus clients. We understand this at scale, right? So we're able to also come as partners who are experts in the space, help you recommend. So today you have offices across New York, Japan, Australia. You're coming to India. We can help you understand how you can, and if you're willing to tweak and there is an intent to tweak, we can suggest what would work for India market, keeping your cultural guidelines intact. So what little design nuances can we take into account? How can we do your experience calendar differently? So we look at data and insights globally and ensure that for a country, we are helping a brand become successful. So I think those are pieces that we're able to deliver because now we are operating as a brand which is large enough to be able to give recommendations to brands who come from outside.
Perfect. Interesting insights. I would love to go back to the time and see more like know more about your days at FMCG. I think you worked with Unilever for a while.
Yes.
And Cavencare as well. Could you tell us more about FMCG industry and your days?
Different days they were, yeah. There was no AI that time. It was, I think, at that time the question was, how much digital are you really using? So I've spent 13 years in FMCG. While at Cavencare, there was no digital. If I remember, we mostly did TV, scarce resources. So we did spot level planning at that time. Spot level media buying is what I used to do at Cavencare because resources were limited and I wanted highest impact. So we would do 8 o'clock prime time. I want 3 spots here. So that's the kind of branding and marketing I've done while at Cavencare. At Unilever, I was handling brands like Laundry and Pureit. So Rin and Pureit, very, very different categories really.
Different category.
Yes, so FMCG, FMCD. So very, very different buying cycles. But Rin again was a heavily penetrated brand, right? 90% plus penetration. So the job there was increase frequency. How do I get my current consumer to use a lot more? And the other challenge that you realize when you work on a brand like that, and I'll share an insight because when I came to the brand, this was one of the first things that hit me. Unilever pushes you out, say go do market work, go do consumer work, be out there to know what's really happening. Because I remember the earlier months, you would feel a lot of pride, right? You are a large Indian player. I'm working on Rin, phenomenal. As I did market work, I went to Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad, and the vicinity. I am not seeing enough Rin. I said, I'm India's #1 brand after Surf Excel. And there's Wheel, of course, that's mass. Why is Rin not there? I'm seeing brands like Triple X and across outlets. I go to Maharashtra, I see Sargam. I go to Tamil Nadu, I see some other brand as the leading brand. I come back with a very interesting analogy. So while I might be the #1 brand at an India level, every state has a #1 brand. I happen to be #1 because I'm all India. I have more distribution, I'm more available. These guys are operating at a state level. The interesting insight there was that these brands which are operating at state level are designed for that water. Tamil Nadu water a little more harder than Kerala's water, and so on and so forth.
moat for these
It's brilliant, right? And their packaging is more different. They stand out, sometimes too jarring, but they appeal to the culture. Like Triple X, it's a name. Look at the name, Triple X.
Triple X.
I mean, I found it almost scandalizing saying a bar is called Triple X. Proudly Triple X, large branding, metallic paper. But it works because hot sunny days, the wrapper shines in the GT outlets. So you come back with such interesting insights when you're out in the market. So I think Unilever prepares you for foundational marketing. So when I came back, and the focus is not so much marketing, digital, etc. I went back to product. And then for the first time, we delivered double formulations. We had two formulations, one for the north, one for the south. While I didn't have one for each state, we broke it down by water topography. So we understood where is soft water. We carved out a belt and we had the two formulations work. We moved to flow wrap from paper wrap. And we said that this is going to be important because let's not be too happy about our all India rank. Let's start looking at our state level rank. And then we started moving from all India one TV campaign that we used to do to more state level activation and figure out building distribution. So my frequency will happen if I'm more distributed and I'm talking to consumer at, this became sort of like B2B in that sense, 1-to-1, a Tamil Nadu, a Hyderabad, a Maharashtra. It was phenomenal. I think that was a very different piece and you saw results very quickly. I think the other advantage with B2C is you experiment today, you see result today. B2B takes time, right? Because the sales cycle is so long, the experimentation, etc., sometimes can take a while to understand the impact. In B2C, whatever you do in marketing, the impact is very, very quick to see. So very different days.
Well, for those who are not from the industry, may not understand the value of what you had cracked. But during what time of the journey you realize that you've cracked the regional market? I think these insights are nothing but gold.
Yeah,
for marketing, right?
It was very interesting. I think this was around so Rin was my first role. I came from cabin care. I came from a very frugality mentality, right? And at Unilever, it's very interesting. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to say this here, but it's very interesting. So I come in and I'm told that, here is your money. You have a lot of money. You have to spend 120 GRPs. And that's about it. That media agency can do it and the creative agency can. I'm like, what am I really doing? Because the brand's pretty much running on autopilot. So apart from managing creatives, content and the media plan, there was really nothing much, which is when Cabin Care style, you start getting into data. You spend a lot of time in the market and then when you come back with this data itself, it hits you differently, right? Saying, I'm not number one everywhere as a brand. So I'm living in a fallacy of sorts, right?
That discovery helps you,
break down
build
further.
somewhere.
Exactly. And I think when you have the conversation and then you have the right leadership at a company like Unilever, willing to learn, willing to understand, and consumer insights are taken very seriously at Unilever. No matter where it comes from, it could come from the sales lead. The junior most person could come back and say, "Ki ye work nahi kar raha hai." The CEO will sit up and say, "Kyun nahi work kar raha hai?" So that's the style of working, because anything that comes from the ground, from the sales team, retail, distribution, and consumer, I want to know. And that willingness helps ideas and innovation happen at scale. So I think it started with that. That data point cracked it for me to start thinking what to do next.
I personally feel the only feedback that works for anyone is the unfiltered one.
Correct.
Those feedbacks actually allow you to understand where you're lacking and what needs more attention and focus.
Correct.
Moving forward, right? Is there any learning or a lesson from your FMCG days that you could perhaps use in AI first marketing, especially for real estate industry, especially or if you talk about table space as a brand?
So I think when you switch from B2C to B2B, you're doing B2B a huge favor because you come with a very different hat, right? You come with a very consumer first hat. So, and I'll talk a little bit about WeWork before I come to table space, right? Or any B2B company. The focus is really bottom funnel. How many leads are you bringing in? Because as marketing, suddenly you become the lead generator engine. Nobody's talking brand building. No matter how big the brand, you still have to do marketing. You still have to do brand building. You have to ensure that you are constantly loved and preferred as a brand. And that cannot happen when you're constantly thinking lead generation. As a B2C marketeer, you are engineered for top funnel, right? And I think that is very important. You're always thinking consumer first. You're always thinking, how do I build experience? How do I build love? How do I build trust? Leads bhi karenge. So it is not an either or, because I think in B2C, sometimes there's a lot of love for just top funnel. B2B, too much love for bottom funnel. I think you crack it when you've done both sides and you know that you need to do both. And now there are enough studies which say that long-term awareness building automatically starts generating leads. So you cannot do an either or. So once you come from a B2C background, in Tablespace, what I've been able to deliver over the last year and a half, 2 years that I've been with the brand right now is establish strong brand presence. What we were doing very well as Tablespace before I came in was build great offices, sell space, become a leader in this space. What marketing really does is add a layer of love and trust. Now people know the brand Tablespace, right? They want to be associated with it. There are other things that people don't realize about brand building. I'm able to hire easily as a brand. In an industry like this, getting the right folks from marketing, data, design to join are not easy because there are other places where this talent can go. But
Of course.
if I position my brand as a tech-first brand, a leader in real estate, I also become a great brand where I can get and attract great talent. So employer branding is also a piece that sits under marketing once you start building the larger brand. So B2C experience teaches you to create a lot of brand love, and you're always consumer first. You're the only consumer voice really in the room, because in a room filled with admin, HR, CFO, CEO, everybody's thinking financials. Let's cut this, let's optimize, all for the business, fully aligned. The marketer will stand up and say, but we need to spend here because it'll hamper the experience. I'm the cost line in some sense, but I am a commercial cost line. This cost has a very clear return associated, and as marketing, my job is to justify that cost to return ratio in some sense. So there is a cost, yes, but there is a definitive return. So that voice in the room is extremely important because that leads to lasting brands in my head, and that comes from a very solid B2C experience.
So if I was to ask you to name one skill that is vital for anyone who's either a CMO or getting into a leadership roles in marketing in a B2B workspace, what would that skill be?
I think whether B2C or B2B, and irrespective of level, curiosity is something that I would want every person to have, because we are in a time where everything's changing too fast. You have to be extremely curious about what's happening and willing to learn from anywhere, because you will become, I mean, for the lack of a better word, you will not be relevant if you are not constantly upskilling, constantly learning, constantly curious. And this is level agnostic, industry agnostic, because change right now is faster than ever. In my 17 years of career, I've seen mediums come, go at the speed of light.
True.
And the amount of learning that's required to stay relevant is insane. So in my head, it's also not so much about B2C, B2B marketing or FMCG, FMCD marketing, because you're still talking to one consumer, right? As a consumer, you buy clothes, you buy laundry, you buy office space, right? So I need to understand you really well to do a phenomenal job as a marketer. And that I will do when I'm looking at you as a consumer.
Super. So we are towards the end of the session. One last question that I would like to ask. We've talked about the past.
Yeah.
We are in, of course, talking about present. Let's look at 10 years ahead from now, right? How do you think AI would influence or transform decision-making for enterprise businesses when it comes to real estate?
Oof, my God. My God. AI is disrupting things every day. You're asking me 10 years down the line.
It's going to stay here for a while.
It's going to, oh my God. And I'm glad it will, because, these are revolutions important to ensure that the human brain also expands, right?
Exactly.
So for me, AI is taking up a lot of repetitive tasks so that the human brain and people, talent, can spend time on strategy and next level thinking. Let me turn your question slightly, and I say, I think if 10 years happen, already there's a lot of, so consumer is the hero today. I think as new tools, as marketing has evolved, as businesses have evolved, more power has shifted to the consumer. 10 years down the line, I think the consumer will come back and say, I want this product. And whoever's able to deliver it the fastest at scale to his preference is the brand that will win, that will thrive, that will scale. And that could be using AI plus tech plus whatever else that's big that time. I'm seeing power shift to consumer completely. And that's where the win is. Companies who understand that and are already adapting to that will win in the future.
Nice perspective. Thank you so much for being on the show, Megha, and sharing your perspective.
Thank you, Yatin. Great
Thank you.
conversation.
Likewise. So, viewers, this was Ms. Megha Agarwal, CMO Tablespace, who shared her perspective on AI-first marketing and real estate. For such content, stay tuned and keep watching FTA Global Marketing Stack 2025. Thank you.